Touchdown, buzzer beater, do it all now. All now, top corner talking home run. Touchdown, buzzer beater, do it all now. All now, top corner like ooh.
All right. Hello, everybody. It is Monday, March 30th, 2026, and this is the Monday Report. I'm your host, H. James K., and today we're going to be talking about Formula One. Not really so much about the Japanese Grand Prix, but I want to talk about like the engine regs and the rules they got going on and all the stuff with Max Verstappen, and that's what we're going to talk about. So right off the top, Max Verstappen retiring? ? So for those in the know, Max Verstappen has an out clause. For those who didn't know this, Max Verstappen has a performance clause in his Red Bull Formula One contract that basically states that if by the summer break in June, if he's not second in the Drivers' Championship, he can opt out of his contract, no questions asked. That's the end of it. And he's got a second clause that if he lets the team know by October, he can opt out after the season is done and call it a career, or call it a day with Red Bull. So where's all this come from? So Max Verstappen is a guy who wants to win. He's won several championships. I think it's 4. And at the same time, though, this is a guy who, by his own admission, needs to enjoy what he's driving. He needs to be having fun. And not like, oh, haha, this is so great, but God, this is exhilarating. I really enjoy driving this car kind of fun. So when your Formula One car is a fried turd and you're marooned in the midfield battling it out with your sister team that's supposed to be inferior, and teams like Williams and Alpine instead of being up there with Mercedes and Ferrari and McLaren, it's not great. It's not great. So let's start from the beginning. Max Verstappen started complaining about these regulations 3 years ago, like back in late 2023, I think, if not early 24. And he said the aero regs aren't going to minimize dirty air enough to make it to allow you to get close enough, and the engines are going to be so energy starved that you're never going to be able, it's not going to work. You're never going to be able to generate enough electricity for a 50-50 engine to electricity split to work for the power unit. And he talked about how you'd have to have people downshifting on straights, and lift and coast would be everywhere, and all these predictions, most of which came true. And everyone called him, Chicken Little, or, oh, you're being too hasty, you're just being a hater, you haven't even seen the car yet, blah, blah, blah. But 3 years later, he was right. Now, the downshifting on the straights, that was hyperbole. That was hyperbolic. But the lift and coast, the crazy energy-starved cars, he predicted all this. And he has been dissatisfied with these regulations since they were announced. He said they're not going to create good racing. This is all about engine management. It's not about driving. It's not about, what the driver can do it's not about the man in the box. It's about, energy management and computers and deployment. And it's all about these things that aren't the pure essence of driving, and that's a problem for him. And then obviously, years went by as those regs kind of simmered in the background, and then preseason testing, and the cars are just as bad as he predicted, just as energy starved, but worse still, the Red Bull car is bad. It struggles with turn-in, it struggles with exit stability, it's draggy. By all accounts, the engine is pretty solid, but the car, the chassis, is just not good. And suddenly a man who was used to contending for wins, who was used to single-handedly dragging the Red Bull team to in the Constructors' Championship, he was in a car he couldn't fight with, driving with a driving style that aggression is penalized and lift and coast is important. Super clipping. Let's talk about super clipping real quick. Super clipping is when you run the energy recovery system backwards while lifting and coasting to aggressively charge the battery. It's called super clipping. And obviously when you're super clipping, you're not accelerating, you're not gaining a lot of speed. So what we're seeing happening is drivers are super clipping at, going into high speed corners instead of being aggressive, because being aggressive, you might trick the engine management system into taking power away because it thinks you're going too fast or something is wrong. So there's all this counterintuitive, like, don't push, be more modest, because that's how you can get the most out of the car. And for guys like Verstappen and Charles Leclerc, that's just not driving. So for Verstappen, he hates everything about these cars. And for him, he's got a sports car team driving a Mercedes that he wants to drive at the Nürburgring 24 hours. And it's like Verstappen Racing or something like that. And he's really intensely passionate about that. And he's got his sim racing. He's got a kid. He's married. So he's got all these other things that he can derive joy from. And then there's Formula One, where his car is a fried turd, and the team is dysfunctional, and there's been a brain drain, and the regs are horrible, and it's just everything is bad. And he's complaining incessantly, which has led to a conversation: is Max Verstappen going to retire? Now, I don't think so, just because I just don't. Now, if Red Bull continues to fall behind and shows no improvement, then yeah, maybe he retires. But I just don't. At this time, I could not imagine him leaving Red Bull and just walking away. I just can't imagine. He's so young and he's still in his prime and he's such a good driver. To see him walk away now would be truly a tragedy for Formula One. So I can't picture it. Stranger things have happened. Nigel Mansell left Formula One at the height of his power to go drive in kart, of all things, in America. So crazier things can happen. Now, if Max Verstappen wants to opt out of his Red Bull contract and then come to America and drive for the Arrow McLaren IndyCar team, I'd be okay with that. Please do that. That would be really cool. But back in the land of realism, I don't think he's going to retire. I don't think he's going to step away. I think he's going to tough it out for at least the rest of this year, and maybe he has a conversation going into 27. Maybe. Now, admittedly, truthfully, he has to let the team know by October of this year whether or not he's going to stick around for the 2027 season. So it can come down to if Formula One makes any changes, does he think the changes are going to do the trick? Does he think these improvements are going to be enough of an improvement to justify sticking around in an engine reg rule set era that he just doesn't enjoy at all? So it remains to be seen. Now, in conjunction with this, let's talk about the Formula One regs themselves. So we found a new phenomenon called yo-yo passing, which is basically you get on the overtake power, you overtake the guy, immediately run out of power, and he passes you right back. Now, it leads to these guys swapping constantly, and from a normie perspective, it's freaking awesome. You get like lots of battling and side by side, but from a purism standpoint, it's not real passing. It's just get ahead, run out of power, lose the position. Get ahead, regain the position, lose power, lose the position. So the drivers absolutely hate it. They've been screeching from the rooftops and every mountain that they can climb up on that these engine regs are bad and the rule set is bad and this style of racing isn't racing and it's not. Now, admittedly, guys like Lewis Hamilton loves it. He's on board. He is enjoying himself. But guys like Lando Norris, Oscar Piastri, Max Verstappen, Fernando Alonso, Alex Albon, they're all complaining about the cars. And this comes down to the way the engine regs were designed. So the engine regs have to have a 50% split, a 50-50 split between engine power horsepower and kilowatts from the hybrid. And that sounds all fine and dandy on paper. It's so sustainable. It's so great in a boardroom. But in the land of realism and honesty, it was a ludicrous idea. The problem is the way Formula One decided to design these engine regs. So when the World Endurance Championship went to hybrid, they allowed energy regeneration from the front and the rear axles. You have electric motors in front and rear, and that's how you were able to generate enough power at the wheels to power a 250 horsepower, 300 horsepower hybrid, a big, sizable hybrid. Well, Mercedes didn't want that because Audi was coming in and they have extensive experience in WEC. So they said, no, we're going to just do power regen from the rear axles. Well, this clearly creates a problem because with getting rid of the MGU-H, the motor generator unit heat, which generates hybrid power from the excess heat coming off of the turbochargers, it's really complicated, it's really expensive, and it was a part that only Mercedes really nailed. So everyone decided to get rid of it, the MGU-H. So without the MGU-H, you have only the MGU-K, the motor generator unit kinetic, which is, using basically heat off the brake rotors to generate electricity, but only the rear brake rotors. Now, that's a problem because in this current engine regs, you do a lot of front braking. You don't do a lot of rear braking because you use the engine braking and the rear braking so you can shift your brake bias forward. So you're not actually doing a lot of braking with the rear brakes, which compounds the problem even more. So the cars cannot generate enough power for the hybrid to have the power throughout the entire lap, which means that instead of having about roughly 1,000 horsepower, a lot of the time they'll get to the end of a straight and just run out of power and go from 1,000 to 560. Now, this has issues because this creates insane speed deltas between cars. It's very dangerous. So picture car A is in front and they run out of power and suddenly they go from 180 miles an hour to 115. And the car behind them, who's in overtake mode, is going 195 miles an hour. So now it's 195 versus 115 in the blink of an eye. Drivers have been going, warning, 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 this is super dangerous for weeks, like well over a month and a half since testing. They've been saying, this is crazy, it's going to be dangerous, it's going to lead to a crash where someone didn't see someone, came up on them too fast, and just blasted them from behind. And it almost happened at the Japanese Grand Prix on Saturday. So, Ollie Behrman, to be truthfully, I don't know who he almost collided with, but he's coming up on this guy, and the guy runs out of power, so he swerves to misses the guy, and goes careening into the runoff and hits the wall with a 50G impact. He bruised his knee, but he walked away. He largely walked away. He was stumbling around a little bit, but it still proves the point that the engine regs in this car, I mean, what if he hadn't missed him? What if he had clipped him from behind? You could kill someone doing that. If you hit someone hard enough when they're not prepared for it, you can kill someone doing that. And I'm almost glad from this perspective that the Iran war has prevented them from going to Bahrain and Saudi Arabia, especially Saudi Arabia, because Saudi Arabia has like 28 corners or whatever, and a good bunch of them are high-speed blind corners because it's a temporary street circuit. So I can just imagine car A coming around the corner and they run out of power and they're going slow, and all of a sudden car B comes screaming around the corner behind them, doesn't see them going max speed, full power, absolute kill mode, and just kills somebody. Blasts their car, destroys it, hurts themselves, kills the other driver. I mean, it might sound hyperbolic, but it's a real possibility. So things have happened like this before, like Alex Zanardi, when he was driving in kart at the Euro Speedway Lausitz in Germany. He spun out, exiting the pit lane, and his car just kind of careened into the track and got smoked by a car going full speed. They had to amputate both of his legs. And yes, he became a Paralympian, but it cost him his driving career. It fundamentally altered the trajectory of his life. Or the time in the IRL when Ed Carpenter hit someone's car and killed a person because the impact was so violent. These things can happen when there's a massive speed delta between one car and another. And finally, after Ollie Behrman's accident, Formula One has started to notice this. Finally. The rumors are, because there's no Formula One in the month of April now that Bahrain and Saudi Arabia have been canceled due to safety concerns and the war, because of this, Formula One, I guess, is going to sit back, go to the drawing board, and have some meetings to discuss things they can do both in 2026 right now and changes they can make in 2027 to fix the rule, fix the regulations so they're not so dangerous. Never even mind the whole fake passing thing. You have to deal with the danger aspect first. Once these stop being the most dangerous Formula One regulations since like the original ground effect era that ended in 1983, since that's what we're talking about. They're so dangerous. Now, yeah, Formula One cars are super safe, safer than they've ever been, but still, when you're talking about such crazy speeds, it only takes one accident to kill a person and fundamentally alter the trajectory of a sport. Because I swear to you, if Formula One has a fatal crash now in 26, the sport will never be the same. It will change everything. Like Jules Bianchi in 2009, that was bad, but that wasn't what this would be. Or, oh gosh, what was his name? He was a Formula 2 driver and he got T-boned at the top of Eau Rouge. No, at the top of Radion, which is the corner after Eau Rouge in Circuit Spa de Francorchamps in Belgium. And his car got T-boned and he got killed. God, I should know his name. What was his name? He was a Frenchman, and it was really sad. And it started suddenly people stopped really going, yeah, Spa's got to be on the calendar. It went, yeah, Spa's great and it's historic, but maybe this track can go away a little bit because it's kind of unsafe. So if someone gets killed in Formula One now, everything changes. Everything changes. So they need to fix this. Now, what is Formula One actually rumored to be considering? Well, let me take a drink to preserve my voice here. The biggest change we're hearing from, scuttlebutt is a possible alteration to the ratio of engine power to electric power. Now, a ratio I've heard is 70-30 instead of 55-45, which it's supposed to be 50-50, but right now it's more like 55-45 engine to hybrid. So moving to like a 65-35 or a 70-30 split would completely it would completely nullify the problem. It would take care of the problem because obviously you'd never run out of power with the hybrid and the charging. It would be fine. But there is a price to pay. These current regs, they don't have a 725 horsepower engine anymore. And where they're just kind of leaning on the hybrid to give them that extra 250 to get to 1,000. No. The internal combustion engine is like 560 horsepower. So if you reduce the amount of electrical power you're having, guys, you're going to get significantly slower. And that's the consideration because, they're supposed to be the pinnacle of motorsport. But if they're like 4 seconds faster than Formula 2, 5 seconds, instead of being like, 12, 15, 17 seconds faster, if it's like, yeah, they're like 5 seconds, it hurts the credibility of Formula 1 and the drivers will just revolt. They'll just be like, this isn't Formula 1, they're too slow, the cars are too easy to drive, this is just, it's a clown show. So there is that consideration of, the fan reaction, the drivers and the team's reaction. But at the same time, something has got to change. Now, me personally, if I was like, okay, how do you fix these regulations? I'm basically keeping most everything the same except for one thing. I'm going to a bigger displacement V10 engine. Think like 3-liter turbocharged V10 engine, and I'm going to a V10 for a couple of reasons. One, the sound is the best sounding engine in the world. A V10 sounds better than anything, and fans absolutely love it. So for fan service and placating the fans, that's great. Box checked. You make the car sound good again. The other consideration, it is very easy to make 700 horsepower in a bigger displacement engine than it is to make 560 in a really, really small displacement engine. So maybe you get 820 horsepower out of a 3-liter V10 that's really easy and cheap to produce and is much less development cost, and then you can have them do a 65-45, a 63 to 37 ratio is the one I came up with, like a 63 to 37 ratio of engine to hybrid that allows them to boost the hybrid and use the hybrid while also lowering cost. That's now, but the thing is, the reason why I said, I almost forgot, 63 to 37, because you don't want to decrease the energy. You don't want to decrease the ratio so much that the cars never run out of power from the hybrid, because then you want a little bit of the yo-yo passing, a little bit in you want that to be a factor a little bit, just because if you eliminate it, I think these regulations would be very boring. So you want a little bit of it. It's about finding the right balance, where I think if it's instead of every other pass being a yo-yo pass, if 1 in 10 is a yo-yo pass, I think that's good, because it allows you more battling and it just kind of gooses the numbers a little bit, but it isn't the only thing you're seeing on track from a purities perspective. So I think that's kind of where I would fall on that, is you just kind of get a much bigger, cheaper, simpler engine with a turbocharger and have... Oh, and another thing, almost forgot. Front axle regen for power. I'd go both axles. Enough of this pussyfooting around half measure stuff. No. We're going all the way. And I think those couple of changes, I think that's the secret sauce. That's the magic bullet. Now, front axle regen, that's a 2030 thing, or a 2031. That's the next gen regulation, because you'd have to fundamentally alter the architecture of the car to fit that in, because you got to put an electric motor in the nose, which means you got to change the shape of the nose, or you've got to put that motor somewhere else and run drive shafts or something. So that's a long way off, but that ultimately is what I think the Silver Bullet's going to be. I think it's eventually going to be a different engine, probably a cheap V8 engine that they can make a lot of power very cheaply, that everyone knows how to make a V8 engine with all four wheels energy generating hybrid. I think that's the magic bullet. All right, so where does that leave us? Right now, Max Verstappen is complaining, and people are starting to wonder, is he going to retire? I don't think he's going to. And there is almost too much passing in Formula 1 right now, because it's super artificial. Not like DRS artificial, but just this isn't really passing. It's just drivers are accidentally passing someone because they're just that much more powerful than the guy in front of them. But then they run out of power and they get passed right back. So that's a problem. And then you've got this crazy safety aspect that needs to change. The speed delta has got to change. The energy starvation of the engines has got to change. And obviously solutions: bigger engine, all four-wheel power regen, change the ratio of hybrid to an internal combustion engine. Those are kind of where we're floating. Everything is up in the air. It remains to be seen. I have a feeling all of these questions are going to be answered by probably October of this year. We'll know everything we're going to know about all these topics, and maybe I'll bring this back up and we'll cover this again once we have more news. But for right now, I think that's kind of where we're at, is just we're in a holding pattern. It's the news of the day, but there's a news of the day with, it's a movie that doesn't have an ending written yet. So we just got to wait and see and find out what Formula 1 ultimately comes up with. Because I think if Formula 1 sticks to the landing, Max Verstappen will stick around. Now, if their efforts are just a half measure and it's clear that Red Bull's not going to improve and he doesn't like the rules, then yeah, he might bounce. But it's a very much a wait and see. You just got to loiter at the perimeter before you can land your plane at the airport. You just got to there's a lot of traffic right now. We just got to keep on holding course and be patient, and we're going to get there eventually. So that's where we're at. All right. So for those of you listening on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and everywhere else that podcasts are available, thank you. For those of you watching on YouTube, please consider liking, subscribing, hit the bell icon to get notifications, and please leave a comment to feed the algorithm. It helps the algorithm see my podcast and helps me reach other people. All right, my name is H. James K. Thank you all for tuning in. Until next time.